What's up everyone and welcome back to another PoE economics video. So before we get started with the video, I first want to mention that we have a Discord server, as well as that all of the links to this build, the items that I'm using inside of this build, will be in the video description. Of course, there's some things that you might want to change, but I think with this video and the links, you'll get a pretty good idea. This build was designed with an around 10 divine budget in mind. If you do not have 10 divines yet, there's some ways in how you can make this work by cheaping out on your items, but you won't necessarily get to the full arbiter, divine arbiter mechanics. So starting off, the first thing that you want to realize is that the main skill that we're using is Spectre-Powered Zealot. Now we're using this because it has some insane damage, and as you just saw by the intro, it kills bosses very, very fast while also being pretty versatile, and these minions are very, very tanky. So having this skill is first off a necessity, and getting it to a level 18 is also recommended. You can see it's not that high of a level right here, and that is because I don't have much plus to all minion skills, which means that this damage that this skill is already doing is not nearly its potential. So the first thing that we want to get on this skill is Pierce, then Wild Shards, then Controlled Destruction, then Feeding Frenzy, and then Muster. Now I won't explain these first four in detail, but we need a Muster because we have two more summoning skills, which are Skeletal Sniper and Skeletal Warrior, and we're doing that to get 7% more damage for each different type of reviving minion. So from this we get a neat 14% more damage, and it also scales in some weird way that I'm not going to get exactly into, but these are very, very useful because they also double with the Pain Offering. So what we put in our Pain Offering is first off Dance Macabre, then Sacrificial Offering, then Magnified Area, and then Meat Shield. Don't get worried by the Meat Shield, this only applies to the spiked minions. So what this does is basically it just spikes the skeletal warriors or the skeletal snipers that you have, and what it does then is obviously boost the damage of your specters by a ton. And when it comes to getting even more damage out of our specters, what we want is elemental weakness. Why elemental weakness? Because it makes a huge difference compared to a lot of other skills, and we don't really want to add our whole bar up with debuff skills. You can of course do that, but in my opinion elemental weakness is already kind of the cutoff where you're going to get annoyed by pressing too many buttons, and we don't want to be a piano warrior over here. So we'll take our elemental weakness together with Spell Cascade, Heightened Curse, Prolonged Duration 2, and Focus Curse. Now you can see we don't have 5 gem sockets in here, so theoretically you could add one more, and the same also goes for these other skills, but essentially I wouldn't recommend it to go for that immediately because those cost like 1 divine right now, and in my opinion until you have everything else specced out are kind of a waste of money. Fitting with those skills, we're going to do the passive skill tree next, and the first thing that we want to do is we want to spec out the left side to get Blackened Heart, and then we want to spec out the right side to get Eternal Life. After we've got those all specced out, we want to get this tree exactly here. You can see it's not fully specced out since I'm only level 8 yet, but what you can keep in mind is that this build is not necessarily driven towards only working in a specific modifier layout. It depends more on the skill that we're using. So Spectre-Powered Zealot, theoretically if you wanted to, you could just type in Minion over here, and then basically you can see all of these skills themselves, which isn't too many, and then you can kind of figure what is going to be the best. For example, if I was going to level up more from here, I would either first see, do my minions die too fast for, let's say if I'm doing the Uber Arbiter, maximum tier Arbiter with a full party, which I haven't tried out yet. If I do that, do my minions die too many times? Can I make them survive that big AoE attack that the Arbiter does sometimes? And then I will try out to get myself a bit more minion life. If I decide I have a lot of life for my minions and myself, but I want more damage, then I'm going for things like minion damage, right? Increased damage with minions deal increased damage. It's really not about copying this one-to-one, though of course you can if you want to, but it's more about realizing what nodes are the best for your exact use case and what you're farming. But I think that goes for a lot of builds, and a lot of people, they kind of forget that while making a build. So let's get to the items now, and the first item that I want to discuss are jewels. Now on jewels, we can get a bunch of minion-centered modifiers. From my experience, the best ones are minions have increased attack and cast speed, as well as minions deal increased damage, and also increased presence area of effect, because you boost your minions by the presence that your scepter has. I did go for both of these jewels with kind of the same intention in mind. So both have minions have increased attack and cast speed, deal increased damage, and increased presence area of effect. That was, in my opinion, from all the modifiers that I saw, the best combination. Now, since I already talked about presence area of effect, I'll mention the scepter as the first item as well. And right here, if you hold your Alt button and then you hover over presence, you can see how big your presence is. And you see we do, with some of these modifiers, a lot more damage with our minions while they are in our presence. So when we're running ahead a bit, you can see they're kind of sometimes outside of that presence, and that especially goes for when we're sprinting, right? You can see how far they fall behind, and in those cases, the higher your presence area of effect is, the better. So the modifiers that we want to go for on the scepter is first off spirit. We need a shit ton of spirit. The second modifier that we want to go for is increased damage. We can go for things like allies in your presence have increased critical hit chance, though this is not really what this specific build that I've made is about. It's more about enhancing just the damage itself. So I wouldn't go for any critical hit chance type of modifiers, but what I would definitely go for is allies in your presence deal increased damage, as well as there's obviously some other damage modifiers for your allies, which of course in this case also improve your minions. Then you want increased spirit. Obviously, like I mentioned, we need at least 160, 170 spirit to really make this work. The more spirit you have, the better. Then in addition, the higher the level of all minion skills that you have, the better. You can see this one is only +1, but you know, it's day 4, so it would be really hard to get a better one without spending too many divines. That is the main weapon. The offhand is going to be the intricate crest shield, or if you want to, you can also put the trench timber spiked club. The reason for this pick is because for the intricate crest shield, you get a shit ton of spirit, as well as to all elemental resistances, where you can, for example, get yourself another Spectre because you have more spirit. For the spiked club, you will get +2 to level of all minion skills, which obviously enhances the damage by a lot. Kind of have to figure out, do you either want more defenses, as well as just a bit more damage through getting more spirit, or do you want really a lot of damage, and then you use the trench timber spiked club. Remember, because you have a shield, you can also use the block, and you can see I haven't put any gems in the raise shield yet, since I haven't seen any that were too great, but obviously if you want to, you can also figure this out, put some gems in here, and then you will have even more defenses. Next, let's do the jewelry. Where first off, we want to use the new modifiers that they've added to the game, which are all of the minions modifiers that you can see right here. So the biggest damage boost and the most important part is going to be minions have increased attack and cast speed, as well as, if you really want to, minions have 16 to all elemental resistances. There's also some other modifiers like increased maximum life to your minions, but these kind of take away from the quality of the ring in the other senses. So if you don't have fully maxed out resistances, you kind of just want to go for the minions have increased attack and cast speed, and then maybe some resistances, maybe some life, but you don't really need any added damage modifiers in here. The same goes for the second ring as well. We want to do the same pick over here, increased attack and cast speed. 10 is obviously the ideal roll. And then you see I also picked this up. This was just on the item by default, where we get some critical hit chance that enhances the damage by not really that much, but a bit. Then we have the amulet. We first off want as high of a spirit as we can. You can see I compromised by not getting +2 minion skills, but for that I got a ton of spirit as well as a ton of resistance, and I also got very lucky with the maximum and increased energy shield. So you want to go for ES as well as spirit to all minion skills, and then some resistances. So essentially, if this one had 3 to all minion skills instead of the all attributes, that would be perfect. But sadly, I didn't get that, since that would be multiple 100 divines probably at this point. There you just have to compromise on how much currency you have. For the helmet, we want +2 to level of all minion skills. Here it's a lot cheaper, so we can actually afford it. This one costs me like 30 exalted, which is like half divine, and also obviously some resistances. Now in here you kind of want to watch out for any helmets that already have the 2 level of all minion skills, but maybe not as much energy shield or as much elemental resistance. So in that case, you can actually use Greater Exalted to put the rest of the modifiers on there. So that's a very, very good trick how you can save a ton of currency, but you can also just buy it by simply searching it like this. Life and any of those similar modifiers are always nice as well, but they're not really required as much as, for example, your resistances or the 2 level of all minion skills. Going to the body armor, we want a ton of spirit, as always, and then we want as much energy shield as you can get while also getting some resistances. If you can get yourself something like 600, maybe 700 energy shield on your body armor and a lot of spirit and a lot of resistances, though that also requires a lot of currency, you probably won't have to worry about defenses anymore, and then you can think about things like actually using the spike club instead of the shield, or maybe switching around some of your passive nodes, but that's simply not possible. We want to keep it budget friendly as well. That's why I compromised here. Then next we got the belt, where for the belt we obviously want 2 charm slots. We get the 3rd charm slot from the acts, and then for the belt there's some very, very interesting rolls that I want to show you. If you can afford it with the amount of resistances that you already have, you want to get a belt that doesn't look like this, but actually looks a lot different. You want to go for something which will give you a ton of damage to your minions. First off, making our minions gigantic if they have revived recently, as well as something like minions have 50 to 100 surpassing chance to fire an additional projectile. Now you might ask, why is this relevant for our specters, which already fire 8 additional projectiles in a circle? And the reason for that is the percentage. The percentage means that firing 8 additional projectiles in a circle basically means, when we add this up to 100%, 2 additional projectiles per cycle. What this means is if we have 50 to 100 surpassing chance to add another projectile, is we can multiply our total damage by 1.5 to 2 depending on what we can get. If you can get a 100 surpassing chance here, it's going to multiply your damage by a ton. But if you cannot afford it due to your resistances, you might want to hold off on that, because there's no point to getting so much damage if you can't even dish it out. If you die before your minions can even do anything, then there's no point to it. Of course, you could still have 2 more resistances after that, but good luck getting a belt with this, and then 2 really good resistances. The rest of the modifiers don't really matter for us. We can try to go for something like life or mana for the prefixes, but generally what I would go for is simply the resistances as well as the S. Don't bother with anything else for the gloss, it's not really worth it. So after the gloss we have the life flask, where you want to get yourself an ultimate life flask with the increased amount recovered together with the chance to gain a charge when you kill an enemy. And for the mana flask we want a ultimate mana flask, of course, with the same modifiers on it. And we do that because we are usually not struggling while we are running through the bosses, but sometimes if we're doing really, really hard maps, we will kind of run low on life or on mana, and then the more charges that we get from killing the monsters that are on the screen, the better, because trust me, we're killing a ton. So for the charms, we want the Nascent Hole Thawing Charm, though obviously that's just quality of life, and if you can't afford it, then don't buy it. It's very, very cheap though, maybe like 10 exalted. And for these 2 charms, it's pretty obvious. We want some guard as well as chance to gain a charge when you kill an enemy. And if you get gains charges per second, that's also alright, but chance to gain a charge when you kill an enemy is obviously the best. Lastly, I want to go over the playstyle, since that is obviously a very, very important part of a build. And for that, I'll just be using a tier 50 map, though this will also work with tier 16. And even if you have very, very strong map modifiers. This is just a normal map though, and some random tablets, so this is just basic tier 15 stuff. When it comes to killing the monsters, what I like to do is I like to kite as many monsters as I can into my minions while not going too far away from my minions. And that is because you need to remember we have a presence area of effect. You have to keep kind of close to your minions to guarantee that they do the full damage. We can place down our elemental weakness together with our spike. And if we do that, we do a shit ton more damage. If there's a lot of monsters, you want to keep very close to your minions. And if there's no monsters, you don't really have to. So I'm just going to go real quick towards the boss and I'll show you how you fight the boss. When you arrive at the boss, you want to place down your elemental weakness, and you can see as soon as you spike your monsters, he's dying very quickly. And that's basically it. You just go towards the boss, you place down your elemental weakness on the boss, you spike your minions, and then you just let them do the rest. Now lastly, I highly recommend that you join the Discord server, as I mentioned in the beginning, to also visit our site, which is PoE2.com. Now, if you're struggling a lot with keeping the value of your currency, and maybe you're watching this video and you see that the prices are so high for any of the items, especially if you want to get them in the perfect state, I highly recommend that you look at the PoE Economics Fund, which is basically kind of like a real-life investment fund, but obviously not a real-life investment fund, but for PoE currency, we basically help you make the smart decisions without you having to worry about anything. Go ahead and check that out if you're interested, and also make sure to join the Discord server in the video description. Check out PoEconomics.com, check out the Autocrafter, check out everything that I've got to offer, and that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much to all of the members that are supporting this channel, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one.